Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the one-year special of Spirit Connections. Woo, woo. I can't believe I just said that. That gave me a weird feeling inside and out. Well, I didn't say it. I just sounded it. It was a sound. But anyways, I have an exciting show tonight, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. First off the bat, if you guys don't know who these guys are, I'm here with Christian White and Jason Mayoh from Haunted RI.
Hello there.
Which I'm very excited to talk to them about. They have some new updates and a lot of good things happening with just the two of them, and I like it like that. And then we have it over on the other side. Steph, who's with you tonight?
I have Matt Moniz and Andy Lake with me tonight, the oddball.
We are back. Again.
For a special night. I'm just excited. I'm on a high. I had a lot of garlic bread.
It was delicious.
It was good.
Delightful.
Well, there's so much that's happened this past year, and I just want to first start off by saying thank you to each and every one of the two of you that watch this show on a weekly basis. Or definitely, if you guys check it out on the archives, I thank you so much, and I've been getting such positive feedback. So I'm very happy. I started a year ago. It was actually the 26th when I started in my kitchen by myself talking to the camera, and I've just come such a long way. So now I'm entertaining you guys with, and entertaining and enlightening you guys with each special guest that comes on the show. And I know I've learned a lot. Steph, I can speak for you, where I'm sure you've learned a lot. You know, anybody from Mandy Avery to...
It's good to meet new people, hang out with old friends. Just everybody brings something different to the table. So I think it makes your show what it is. I love watching it, even though I'm here every week. And I wasn't paid to say that, I swear.
I gave her a little something under the table.
It was garlic bread.
Yeah, it was. Dipped in oil. But getting back to, you know, it's been a year. We've done this pretty much on a weekly basis, give and take a couple weeks off. But, yeah, it's again, we've gotten the great feedback and positive responses. And I'm always looking for suggestions on enhancements for the show, and also guests and so on. So definitely check out my website at tiffanyrice.com. You can go and share your comments on there, or you can email me at tiffcat3@gmail.com, or Spirit Medium Tiffany on Facebook. You can also post your comments and suggestions on there, because I love to hear it. So going on to this past weekend was a crazy weekend for all you paranormal fans out there. I was at the, I was going to say Ocean State Paracon, but that was a week before. But I was at the Psychic and Paranormal Fair, along with Steph and Christian and Jay and Matt. Andy wasn't there because he was getting his sleep, ready to go to Slater Mill. So first, let's start off with the Psychic and Paranormal Fair. What'd you guys think of that?
Yeah, great time. I'm actually still wearing my bracelet. So.
He still has it on.
Going strong.
Reminds me of like an 8th grade dance.
Yeah.
Like, you know how something, you know, you wear a bracelet. Or,
I wouldn't know because I was never invited to any dances in 8th grade. It was an off year for me.
All I danced to was Salt and Pepper. I didn't do
Really?
any slow dancing, no.
Yeah, that was our second year going to that particular convention.
Yeah, I think it was the second annual time that they've tried to put this event on, and it was a fantastic event. What did you think?
I thought it was great. I thought it was smaller than, you know, back in September, but they had a lot of new faces there that I got to meet, and it was still a great energy, great vibe, and I actually liked it a little bit better in the sense that I actually made friends from September, so now I was able to actually see everybody and actually keep on using the term actually a lot, but but I was able to talk to everybody and see what was going on. What about you, Matt? What'd you think?
I think it had an equal turnout to the type it did in September. A lot of steady flow. The lectures, I think, ran a little bit more smoothly than they did in September in terms of maintaining the schedule. And the type of speakers they had were also excellent. The people that came in later not knowing that there were lectures had, you know, like, hey, I wasn't expecting this. It was a nice little bonus. So
Ken DaCosta was there, right? Talking about cryptids?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, Ken's a good guy.
Yeah, he's interesting.
Yeah, he's one of my new friends. You know, always heard of him, and then I was able to as you guys know, he was on the show a few weeks ago, him and Dave, and yeah, so now we've become friends. So I like it. Now let's talk about Slater Mill. Silence. No, I just wanted to see if anybody would say anything, and nobody said anything. No, so then after the Psychic and Paranormal Fair, some of us trotted on over to Pawtucket, Rhode Island, which is where the historical Slater Mill is. And Tim Weisberg and Jeff Belanger put on a graveyard shift. And that was an event full of lectures with Mr. Andrew Lake himself, and Jeff, and Matt was there, and I feel like there was a lot of people. You guys
Keith and Carl Johnson.
Keith and Carl Johnson.
Yep.
And they shot an episode of 30 Odd Minutes, which was great to be a part of that. And it was a night of eating pizza, investigating, and learning, and getting to...
More pizzas than I've ever seen in my life.
I know.
It was ridiculous.
I'm telling you,
And tasty.
Yeah, Jeff's going, you think I should buy more?
I did
We went through all of them.
That's a good
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
thing. People were eating that.
Jeff's
night.
going, I figured it out. Everybody could have 2 slices, so don't eat a third one.
See, I thought that was a great idea because not only does everybody like hot pizza, but the majority of people like cold pizza
Yeah,
too.
and it was
so
good cold.
in between switching buildings, you know, when people could come up, we ate the cold pizza. So it was a good idea.
And there was salad.
There
And
was that.
salad. And
They
salad.
went through actually 6 containers of the salad too. That
Well, Carl Johnson's girlfriend couldn't stop wolfing it down. She kept going, "Oh, the salad's unbelievable." She's going to cover the table. I'm going for more salad.
I swear, I was in the other room doing readings for a while, so every time I'd come out to retrieve the next person, I'd see somebody grabbing more pizza, and I was like, I smell it, and I was just so far away, so far away. But it was definitely, it was such a great experience again to work with, you know, some of the best people in the paranormal business, and I'm so happy to be part of it with you guys.
And we didn't get rained on.
Yeah.
No, and it was
Beautiful
nice
night.
too. So it was like around 12:30 at night, and all of a sudden, I'm looking out the window like a creeper, and all of a sudden I see.
I'm looking in the window
I
like
know.
a bigger creeper.
And Jay all of a sudden is peering inside one of the windows. and
Looking
I'm
for
thinking-
pizza.
and I'm like, wait a minute, he hasn't been part of it since. What time is it? And I looked. I'm like, oh, so I went outside. So that was a
Yeah, it was cool.
That
You know,
was a treat.
I live right down the street from Slater Mill, and I don't think I've been there since I was a kid on a field trip. But what a interesting, beautiful site.
The
Now, were
American
you-
Industrial Revolution started there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there in those buildings.
Were you able, as you know, showing up a little bit later, were you able to get into every building, or?
I checked out a few. I checked out the one that Andrew was giving the
The
tour
wheel
to.
pit.
Yeah, that was an interesting place.
Spooky.
Yeah.
So one place I didn't go that night.
I was in there for about 5 minutes. Just, I wish I could have stayed longer, but by the time I snuck in, I had 5 minutes, and then I had to sneak back out.
Did anyone have any experiences that night?
Yeah.
the Silver and Brown
Yeah,
House and a lot
yeah.
of stuff was happening.
But the wheel room, the sensation of something moving around you. We had a lot of very bizarre EMF hits. It was almost as if you could follow something around the room with 3 EMF meters.
Now I was on the floor directly above him, and we kept having the same thing, traveling around like
Yeah.
a figure 8 type of pattern almost throughout the room.
Yeah, and you couldn't get it to repeat in the same spot ever again throughout the night.
And one of the first things I checked was what kind of electrical components are in there. Number one, everything's all driven off of belts and pulleys and you
From
know.
the wheel down below.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there isn't much need for electricity, and all the stuff that's in there is in shielded conduit.
Yeah.
So very little water. Very little electrical source other than static electricity from the water possibly generating stuff. But
Jason Lorfus from Vermont, paranormal investigator, he was taking a series of digital pictures, one right after another, and one of them, the whole left side of his picture is just blanked out by like a black cloud.
Yeah.
And the very next picture,
Yeah.
there was nothing there. We tried everything we could to see if somebody could have possibly walked in front of him, his hand, and we could not reproduce it.
Which room was that in?
That was in the wheel room for the Wilkinson Mill.
Yeah.
Reports of women being scratched in there. Keith and Carl said, it was something that they just thought the first time it happened, well, maybe she bumped into something. Second time it happened at another investigation they held there. It was a little bit strange, and they've told me it's been about 4 women have walked out of there with scratches on them they can't explain. I won't get
Wow.
into it now, but Pamela Padalano had said she picked up on something in that room, And when we told Keith and Carl about it, they found what she said psychically to be kind of interesting. But I don't want to give away too much because we kind of like to observe that room in the future and see what other things happen to people when they go in there. Don't want to put things into people's minds.
No, I agree. I agree. Yeah, it was definitely an experience. I spent most of my time in the Wilkinson building, and then I snuck out and went to the mill, and then I ended up going to the Sylvan Brown house.
House was saved in 1963, I believe, and brought to the other property. It was the house that Slater stayed in when he first came to Pawtucket. That's how he met the Browns, and he eventually, of course, married into the Wilkinson family. That's the other name on the property. They built the Wilkinson Mill, the machine shop. But that house has a great significance to that part of the history, and it was great that they saved it, brought it to the property. But oddly enough, it seems to be probably the most active building on the site. They see a little girl that twice in the EVPs they've gotten the answer, what is your name? They've got a little girl come back and say, Becca. And I have personally on 2 occasions have heard little feet running around in that building when there was nobody, could be accounted for it. So I feel it is definitely haunted by Becca, whoever Becca is.
Well, I know with Carl Johnson, he took out dowsing rods during the investigation, and he had us hold our hands out to see if we felt a change in temperature.
That's one of the reports. People feel a little hand touch them, yeah.
It was definitely a very interesting house. Also, the house is tiny, and I was told that it held 22 people at one point.
People lived back then, yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
Warm in the winter, I guess.
A whole lot of Pawtucket snuggling going on.
Snuggle fast. Steph, do you have any questions about Slater Mill? Because I see you writing.
Not particularly about Slater Mill, just generalized questions.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, there's a couple because I want to.
All right. Most are for Christian and Jason.
Well, let me ask you this first. We're just going to start talking about their stuff. So does it pertain to this?
It has nothing to do with anything current, just generalized questions, because people, all they see is the two of them sitting up there. So they're asking questions.
Okay, so why don't I do a little intro?
I think my head is so large, too, that it's getting cut off by the...
Oh, move in closer. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you look good. I think you look nice.
Well, I have Jason Mayoh and Christian White here tonight to talk about Haunted RI, and it still continues. You guys have your first one out.
Yep.
And the second one features Mr. Andrew Lake.
Of course.
It does.
He's the man.
And what are you guys talking about in the second release?
Well, the new episode comes out May 5th at 7 p.m. on Rhode Island PBS. And, for a long time, we were trying to figure out what kind of subject in Rhode Island that we wanted to follow next. We kept coming across this name, Dolly Cole, in Foster, Rhode Island. And I think we were both sort of taken by the name Dolly Cole. It seemed like such a cool and interesting name. And when we started to look online, there's just so many different stories attached to her name.
Every link, if you do a Google search on Dolly Cole, every link is a completely different vein of that story. And you have over a century of intermingling of stories going on. So yeah, we started to be really interested.
Yeah. And I mean, Andrew pretty much broke it all down for us. I mean, he's certainly one of the experts on that. But what's interesting to me is all these stories have sort of been assimilated and given this one name. So you would hear things like Dolly Cole's a witch, or Dolly Cole is a murder victim at 27 years old.
What time, can I ask you what time frame this was? Was this?
Well, Dolly Cole was a turn of the century.
Yeah, the classic story that floats around is 1893 is her death. She was 27, but that's all very inaccurate.
But what you find in this area of Foster, there's 3 distinct bridges and bodies of water.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Are you hot in that jacket?
No.
This is his uniform.
I was just thinking, I'm starting to sweat a little.
It's a weight loss technique, I think.
It's a style.
Doing wrestling.
Right.
Sorry.
But,
trying to compete against your rap stuff.
I know.
There's been many different reports of female apparitions near 3 different bridges and bodies of water in Foster, and a lot of the sightings, people assume it's Dolly Cole, this female specter that haunts the
And that there is also part of what interested me, is the phenomena of identity matching to what we know as ghosts. And I think that you probably see a lot more of that than anybody might even think, that the name given to a ghost is sometimes a name that's more of a popularized name. And sometimes I wonder if it isn't the same reason why a lot of people start with a hook at the beginning of a ghost story. It's because the name will help the memory of the story stick, and it keeps the story alive. And if you look at storytelling with social Darwinism, the strong stories survive, the weaker stories attach themselves, the names, all that stuff seems to be important. So Dolly Cole as a name for an apparition, whether it is or it isn't anyone named Dolly Cole, I think there's a reason that happens.
And I think throughout this hour episode, we sort of break down the truths and the fictional elements of this particular story, her story. There's no ghost hunting per se at night out in the woods or anything like that, but I think in a way we certainly got down to the truth of this legend.
Yeah, I think, rewinding 100 years of storytelling, to me, is equally as exciting as, at the end of the day, finding a ghost. Actually, I don't know what you guys think, but I'm starting to wonder about, even if somebody catches a full, crystal clear apparition, to me that's like going to an amusement park, getting in line for the roller coaster, and somebody shows you a video of the roller coaster as opposed to riding it.
Right.
Like, at this point, most of the people that are watching any of these shows already believe in ghosts. So to see evidence of a ghost, I don't understand what the point is anymore.
Right.
So at that point, what else is there that can be explored within the parameters of the supernatural? And I think ghosts live or die in the stories that are told about them. So to trace that back, and Andrew, anyone who's ever listened to Andrew tell a ghost story, I mean,
the funny thing about this haunting is the ghost.
Yeah.
Who we believe to actually be a woman named Betsy Grayson, who died in the area. Oddly enough, the same year that Dolly Cole died, 6 months after Dolly. But Dolly was 91 and a half years old, died of natural causes, whereas Betsy Grayson died tragically by drowning in the Ponegantsit. And the odd thing is she shows up at the most anti-dramatic, anti-climatic kind of haunting. It's in the summer, while it's still daylight, by a beautiful stream. There's almost nothing spooky about it, except when you talk to people who've actually encountered her, and they have that personal moment with this apparition. And they receive the shock, but for these guys to ghost hunt for this particular ghost, they might as well be fishing on the show.
Now, Andrew, how is it filming with these two?
Oh, we had a lot of fun. Pamela Padalano tagged along with us. But it was a little chilly, but it was a nice day, and we went all over the Hopkins Mill area, and then I introduced them to Pat Morgan, an actual witch in Foster, and she is, boy, these guys flatter me by saying I'm a great storyteller, but I've sat with Pat Morgan and her husband for hours by their fireplace just listening to the
You know what, though?
details.
You have the tone.
Well, I'll
You
tell
have
you,
the gift.
when you see
Yes.
Pat Morgan on their documentary, you'll see what I mean. She's a fascinating lady.
She's from the old school, and I mean, she actually mentored Keith and Carl
Keith and
Johnson
Carl.
to a point.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And she's been a huge help with keeping the stories alive.
Oh, absolutely.
We were really proud to have got her captured on camera, for posterity, because her point of view definitely, absolutely deserves to be preserved. And she really is the voice of Foster as far as our documentary is concerned. Whereas Andrew, Tom D'Agostino are really the guides and the experts into the legends in the history.
Yeah, I mean, she's a Foster resident.
Pat
I'm not
is
sure
Foster.
lifelong, but she's been there for a while, so she's heard all the stories.
So now, forgive me because I don't know who she is. So how did you know? Like, was she just a name?
Just by knocking on doors since I've been delving into Foster since 2006. I've heard all the stories, on and off throughout the years, but I started knocking on doors, so to speak, in 2006. And you just meet one Foster resident after another, and eventually people were bringing up her name. Well, you got to go talk to Pat. You got to go talk to Pat. Yeah. And I eventually got in touch with her, and she opened her door wide open to me, and I've become very good friends with her. And
Great.
She's just a great and an amazing psychic, and as well as storyteller.
Sorry for that. That was actually Brian Harnoir calling in.
That's a good segue into what I'm sure there's some questions that Steph has. Yeah. The first question is for you viewers out there, when I had these guys on back in September, there were 3, and now there's 2. So, I mean, obviously, you don't have to answer any of these questions. It's totally up to you guys. We're very free-spirited over here. But why is it only 2 and not 3?
Well, the whole pilot episode, it was a sort of, any pilot, you know, can change from when it turns into a series. I mean, Jerry Seinfeld's dad was different in the pilot episode.
Right.
That being said, you know, we look at that episode as, you know, we're very proud of what we did and what we accomplished with Brian. There's no doubt about that. I think, unfortunately for Brian, certain elements and patterns and sort of negative habits kind of creep up wherever he sort of goes. So, I mean, we wish him the best, and we have some other segments that he might be on. We have another half-hour segment that's sort of shorter stories that we filmed with Brian. Did you want to say anything?
Well, earlier, before we were filming, Jade, you made a good point. You know, if people have followed Brian Harnois over the years on television, there's definitely patterns in his character within the paranormal. And we definitely experienced the full gamut of those patterns. So yeah, like Jay said, you know, we 100% have no bad blood, wish him well. But just, we weren't all going to be able to work together from that point on, I don't think. Yeah.
It's the type of thing, too. I mean, we're doing this for PBS, and if it had sort of been a huge success and we get paid weekly to do 6 episodes, I mean, that sort of was the goal, and that would have been a great achievement. But at the end of the day, we have to take time out of our own personal lives to get this stuff done. And Brian's got a lot of family commitments as well, so.
It's hard. I mean, I know that I have some really, really good friends out there, but when I put them in a working environment, it's a totally different type of relationship and different commitment. And as much as I love them outside of work and having that friendship bond, having them in a work bond can be totally different. So,
Sure.
I mean, I understand that. I respect that.
And like Christian said, I mean, we wish Brian the best. We hope,
yeah.
I think me being friends with Brian and sort of trying to get him back into sort of ghost hunting was a good thing for him. And I hope he can continue doing what he loves to do, because I know he's definitely
Yeah, because if not ghost hunting, or if not investigations into the paranormal, I don't really, honestly, and I don't mean this to sound reductive, but I don't know what Brian's on the planet for other than that. Honestly, like that's, from what I've experienced, that's Brian's path.
And that's
And
his
I think
passion.
the problem
Yeah,
is,
of course.
and I'm only speaking for myself, from my experience, I think Brian may be the only person in the world who doesn't quite understand that. That's all.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. So he's not going to be in the second episode?
Well, he's not in the second episode, no.
We wanted to double up on the Andrew.
Who
You
wouldn't want
got
to double
extra
up on the
Andrew for
Andrew?
$1.
Okay.
But also, being that it's just us out there, it's a different approach, because, I mean, we never said that we were ghost hunters. We're the filmmakers sort of looking for the story. And having Brian along sort of added that ghost hunting element, of course.
Right, and you guys never had the exposure. I mean, you did artwork for the Taps magazine.
Sure. But that's,
So you've had the exposure, but it was more kind of, you never had the face exposure, you know, putting your face out there. And that's how a lot of people recognize you, is once you get once they can see you and relate to you, then they're usually hooked, like, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
so
it's just like this thing I was saying about the stories. You know, look at us, Jay and I attach on to Brian, who's a more credible name, and it brings us to a different level. So it kind of works the same way. And it's all like a big petri dish like that, I think. Anything, you know.
But you know what, though? Like, I give you guys a lot of credit, because the events that I do, you guys are there, and you're there from beginning to end.
We love it.
And you know, you are committed. You're committed to what draws you there, which is your passion, which is filmmaking.
We love just talking to people. I love hearing people's
absolutely.
stories, and a place like these types of paranormal conventions are interesting because, not to use the term again, but they're like a petri dish for stories. Everybody brings stories in, and all these stories intersect, all these belief systems challenge
and not
each other.
just ghosts. I mean, we're talking UFOs. Everything.
I mean, I will say, I had to
supernatural
be escorted out of the, like, basically helped out the door, because I spent 45 minutes with Matt Moniz and, like, literally got lightheaded. Because he just blew me away. Like, he knocked my head off in 45 minutes with information that I had to go get some air. So, for nothing else, those events, to bring these types of people into one room.
Like-minded people.
It's totally worth
exactly.
it. It's worth every minute of it.
But again, because I'm sure it's because people like drama, and you know that's the first question.
Sure.
Where's Brian? What's going
what's
on?
happening
And
all
I'm
day,
sure
yeah.
you get that
We
a
get it a
lot,
lot.
doing the conventions, and you're saying to yourself, like, well, he's not here, but you have us, and we're the ones who make it. So
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, like we were saying before, Brian's got those patterns where we've seen him come and go before, you know, unfortunately.
No, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think there's, in the early Atlantic Paranormal Society crew, or at least that first few seasons of Ghost Hunters, I think there's a lot of negative energy floating around, whether it be from having a huge show and then certain people get elevated and certain people get relegated to not being on TV anymore, you know.
It's just got to be. Even from the minor connection we have to it. Everybody in this room knows this is a strange world. When you dip your toe into even Rhode Island paranormal, it's a strange world full of characters and egos and territories. It's really, really strange, and I don't know if people in Iowa recognize this type of thing in their state, but in New England, I mean, this is the supernatural. This is huge. This is, I mean, people who aren't even doing shows or aren't even pursuing investigations will base their whole life on just the vicarious living through others of this world. I mean, they'll spend money, they believe.
Yes.
It's really
I will
interesting.
say this though, I do think Brian should go back onto Ghost Hunters. So, if you're looking for a replacement for that Grant guy.
Well, you know, like I always talk about whenever I do a lecture, it's not reality, it's producer TV. You know, and producers like to create drama and you know, bringing people on that cause a ruckus. Not saying that Brian causes a ruckus, but you know, spices things up a little bit.
Yeah.
Adds a little flavor. They like that.
Yeah, this is an industry of personalities. And personality's a broad term, and I think actually part of what made Brian and probably keeps Brian as kind of intuitive as he is, and I've seen Brian have every time I've gone into a place with Brian in terms of like ghost hunting, there's results. And I think part of it is because Brian's got a very strong personality, and I think the people with the very strong personalities shake up the most energy. And if a ghost hunt is something where I believe where you're meeting something halfway, that if you go in there with an open mind and you put a little energy out there, you might have a better chance of having something react to you and vice versa. He's got the goods. So, yeah.
And we have to go back to Rhode Island later on tonight, so if there is a ghost mafia, we might get some bullets whizzed by our head, but hey, you know, we're living on the edge over here.
Why not? Why not?
So anyway.
So that's good. Now, are you still affiliated with TAPS at all, or?
No, I mean, I'm still a freelance artist, but you know, back in the day when they started their magazine, I did comics and sort of cartoons for them. But.
And can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Because I really want to be part of that too. I would like to investigate a haunted amusement park. So. Yes. Just let me know.
I will.
I'll just show up.
If I can think of one.
I'll just tag along.
If I can think of a good amusement park.
If there was one in Rhode Island.
And if we can get in, yeah.
I'm just saying, I mentioned it before, you never followed up with me. So, no, I'm just kidding. Not really. You
Tough
remember.
cookie.
There's
You
one
remember.
in Dartmouth, Massachusetts.
I think it calls for a field trip.
Absolutely.
I don't know if we can get into that one.
Now,
Legally.
I want to say, because Steph has some questions, I don't know if we touched base on some of them, but I just also want to mention, I want to welcome Mr. Tim Weisberg on.
Yay!
Yeah, I snuck in. I'm going to talk into Moniz. Oh, you don't have a mic either. All right, good. Yeah, I just snuck in. I heard there was food.
Yes, we have cake, we have two, because I'm so indecisive, I bought a white cake and a chocolate cake. So best
I'm
of
just going
both
to
worlds.
smush them together and make one cake out of it.
There you go.
should. You
That
should.
works.
So I don't know if you missed it or not, but we were just talking about Slater Mill and how much fun we had.
I was watching the show while driving, actually.
Oh,
which is-
great.
yes.
Very good.
Oh, nice.
It's the modern equivalent of, you know, drinking and driving. Now it's streaming and driving.
Good.
Yeah, no, it was a
great.
wonderful night. It was a great night, and I still hear lots of experiences pouring in, cool photos. I heard you guys talking about Jason's photo, which was pretty awesome. And I think as the weeks go by, we're going to find out more and more different little stories that happened over the course of that night. It's hard in a group like that, though. You know,
Right.
You know, anybody that's done these things know that when you have 15, 20 people on one floor of a building, you know, you're asking for a lot of contamination. But when people are coming out and saying, I had a personal experience, that's pretty cool.
And I can agree with you. There were some points when I was in a certain area where there's no doubt in my mind that something was right.
Well, we had a few together.
Exactly.
We were staying together.
That was a good thing, is because I had Steph and I said, Steph, tell me, where do you want to go? And she validated exactly the places that I had said when we were first in the Wilkinson building and you had asked.
That it's not. That's like a psychic thing, not just because you're girls and you have to kind of travel in a pack.
We always
No,
travel.
because I showed up randomly because I snuck away from where I was supposed to go. So,
So that means every time you guys had to go to the bathroom together, that's because like you thought there was a ghost in there.
Yes.
No.
I'm just teasing.
I know.
But when I actually just had walked into you guys, I had no idea where you guys were stationed. And I walked in, I was like, oh, okay, hi. And she's like, tell me, where do you want to go? And I said, here, here, and here. She's like, oh, yay, thank you for showing up. But we snuck off to the Sylvanus Brown house together. And Carl Johnson had released the group and then said, you two come back. And I want to see what you guys pick up in here with just us alone. And he thought maybe he could get Becca to communicate with us. And we were both standing side by side. And both like gasped at the same time, and she goes, tell me what you just felt. And it felt like a little hand went right down the side of my back, and I had goosebumps everywhere, and it was fairly warm. And she's like, I just felt the same exact thing, and it was so weird that it happened at the same time. But we should have expected it being mediums, but it was still cool to have a personal
It
experience.
was a great experience.
Well, one of the things that Tiffany was talking about in the Wilkinson machine shop area was that one little area in the back where you felt that there was a presence, didn't want you intruding on that area. And every group that came in during the course of that night, there was at least 1 or 2 people that picked up the same, psychic abilities or no, people were picking up that same sensation. And a lot of the devices that they were using was also kind of peaking in that area as well. So
4 meters in a row picked up the temperature as 66.6 from different groups
That's
walking
great.
in
Wow.
and out.
That's hysterical.
Granted, that may have been the actual temperature.
But still.
Right.
But still.
yeah, with an event like
I
this, the more important part isn't the hard data, because people are going to look at it and say, well, that's contaminated. There's too many people, too many variables. But so when people are coming out there and having an experience, that's what makes it worth it. I mean, all we can guarantee you when you come to one of these events is a good time. And if you have
And good food.
Yeah, the food is pretty good.
Oh, those brownies.
Oh.
I was dreaming about those.
Yeah, so do I. The only time I ever get them is when we book an event. That's why Legend Trips exists, just so I can
For
have
the
some of my
brownies.
wife's cookie bars.
So, Steph, you want to ask some questions?
Sure. Some of them were geared toward either one half or the other half, but I think
Okay.
I'd like to ask everybody.
Okay.
So maybe we can go around.
Sounds good.
So where is the most interesting haunted location that you have been to, and what was it like?
We've been asked this question before, and I'd have to say for me, during the first episode, Haunted Our Eye, was Ramtail. And it's because I had my first experience of actually seeing something in front of me. It was unbelievable. So
Yeah, that would have been my answer as well. And not just because it co-ops what we're also here talking about, but because honestly, Foster, Rhode Island, we've done about, probably 1.5 of our episodes is basically on Foster. And Foster is absolutely, for lack of a better word, a magical place. It really does speak to, I think, Foster as an example of a haunted place really speaks to a larger way of looking at hauntings and looking at the supernatural. That a place itself can just have an energy. I mean, you can feel it in Foster. You can see it in the way the trees grow. The trees, we edited for 6 months staring at Andrew and clips, and I started to just notice that the trees, to me, and I find that part of, interpreting a lot of the supernatural stuff, you have to be open to looking at things on different levels, and if something feels like it's some sort of a message in my mind, then that's part of the experience to me. So if the trees give a vibe, then that's part of what I'm trying to pick up on as well. And Foster, I mean, I don't have to tell you. You know when you've crossed into Foster.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, the book I wrote, Ghost Hunting Southern New England, I went all throughout Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and I tell people that Foster, Gloucester, and Situate, that area of Rhode Island, right along the Connecticut border, there's a vibe about that place.
High strangeness,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And you talk to people who've lived there their whole life, and they'll tell you, oh yeah, this is definitely a weird town. I can tell you some stories. I've heard that so many times.
It's really, anyone that legend trips around
Foster
Rhode Island,
Triangle?
yeah.
I have no clue.
Coleman's on the phone.
Yeah, Foster, Rhode Island, if you're in the area, definitely a place to check out.
Another field trip for us.
We're just going to have to make a whole list of field
I
trips.
recommend Tavern on the Main.
In Gloucester, yeah.
Heck yeah.
Great
That sounds
food.
good. Yeah, that
Haunted
sounds
as all
good.
heck.
Yeah, right. That's what we've heard.
Do you guys want to answer that question too?
I'm sorry?
The most interesting haunted location you have been to, and what was it like?
Oh, I'd have to say go back to Foster, and I'd have to say between the Ramtail property and the Rounds Farm. I have had some of the most profound personal experiences up there. Seeing a glowing light move through the woods, almost like a shimmering soft green glow, to something that absolutely looked like a lantern being carried by somebody under a full moon with a night vision scope, and there was nobody holding onto this light. And the most bizarre thing about it is it didn't cast any light beyond itself. In other words, if you're in the woods at night, you turn on a flashlight, the whole woods in front of you lights up. This intense flame was swaying down the carriage trail, and it wasn't casting any light beyond itself, with no sound of footsteps on a bed of dried pine needles and sticks. Whereas if I took a step, it sounded like 4th of July. No explanation for that. That night will never, ever leave me. I'm convinced I've seen the Phantom Milkman of the Rounds.
Matt?
Me, ooh. I'm torn between two places. One being my local favorite haunt, Lizzie's, and the other Waverly Hills in Louisville, Kentucky.
That's one place I would love to visit. Love to get the opportunity to visit there.
Don't blame you.
You should.
Yeah.
I did it once.
I'll give you a tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get down there, I can give you a nice little tour.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Wait,
that's
at
always
Waverly?
Fascinated
up
with
there.
that.
Waverly or Lizzie?
Either.
I say we all go. Oh, of course, I'm always inviting I'm like that. What about me,
Well,
person?
Waverly's
I'm sorry.
186,000 square feet. We can fit plenty of people.
I say we go. We plan a trip. We'll just quit our day jobs and go.
That's great.
Hell
It's
no.
$1,000. The last time I checked, it was $1,000 for a group.
Yeah, we got to
I went
find
in-
day jobs to quit first.
Yeah. I've got nothing left to quit, exactly.
I know that the owner, Tina, I can probably get the place for us reasonably.
Well, seriously,
If you have most
Seriously.
people,
Yeah, we've always
it's not
wanted
that
to.
expensive.
it's great. My experience there. I think I might have mentioned this, but my experience was I was on the 4th floor. I was with my friend Tracy Bjork, and we were both on the 4th floor. It was just us. Everybody, all the other groups were in different areas, and we were getting a little spooked. I'm gonna say, like, we didn't say it to each other, but we were walking, and our arms were touching. Like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. And we could tell. And so we ended up instead of walking down the hallway, we went out to one of the rooms and started walking down that area, which was wide open, and it was just a wall.
You're walking down the main corridor in the center of the 4th floor.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's when we decided, like, all right, we're going to move it over to the open area part, because we were both a little bit, we're just going to check it out. We didn't want to admit to each other that we were spooked. So we were walking, and all of a sudden I heard like footsteps behind us, and so I said, Tracy, stop. And so she stopped, and I turned around, and she turned around, and we saw this black silhouette. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, is this what is it? What is it? And so she says, hello? No answer. And then I say, hello? All of a sudden, someone shines the light. It was it was one of the security guards, who obviously knew, because there's video cameras everywhere, so
Yeah.
they know the locations where you are. So he was like, oh, just checking. And obviously he did it on purpose, because he got to a point where we could finally...
I probably know the security guard.
Oh, you
yeah.
do know. Dave?
Yep.
He's a good guy.
So that entity at Waverly, that's been
There's
coined big.
several of them.
What about the
Yeah.
big black?
Yeah.
That's
I've
the fourth
encountered
floor,
it before.
right?
You've
Yes.
encountered that?
Yes. With a tour group, yeah.
Wow.
One of the wildest encounters I had was in the basement. We had, and this was one of the things where Brian put together, and of course, he taps me on the shoulder. Hey, can you help me? I got 100 and something people, and I need people that know what they're doing to help guide them around. So I'm like, all right, fine. I had a group of about 20 people, 25 people, and each group was assigned one of the security guards. So I was hanging with one of the security guards, and we're in the basement. Everybody's taking their turn, hopping on the table in the morgue, sliding
Yeah.
themselves in and out, taking pictures, having a grand old time. And then the rest of the hallway went down, and there was a skeptic in my group, as there usually turns out to be one. He's walking down the hallway and then starts walking back. Everybody, the security guard and I were doing the head counts. And we know where everybody was, and we counted 1, 2, 3, 4, got up to 20, and as this other guy's coming back, 20, 21. Who's 21? So me and the security guard start walking up to him as, you know, the skeptic guy comes walking by, says hi to the guy leaning against the wall. Walks by, me and the security guard go up walking to him, and all of a sudden he starts walking down the hall as we're starting to get into a run and say, hey buddy, come here, because he started walking down the hall, and all of a sudden as we're getting from maybe about 10, 15 feet away, he starts dissolving from the middle.
Oh,
to top
come
of
on.
We both went, whoa.
Bless you.
Came back and told what happened, and the skeptic is like, no, that guy was real. Yeah, he was, right up until the point where he disappeared.
Yeah.
But you also caught some great evidence at Waverly Hills.
Yeah.
And you can actually catch that on YouTube.
And also at my site, greenvilleparanormal.com.
It's on it.
Laura Casey's page, not only at normal speed, but twice slowed down. And Matt's friend Joe that was with him caught a video that just will make your eyes pop out of your head. It looks like a hospital orderly leans out of a doorway behind Matt. But he has no legs.
Yeah.
It is amazing. And so go to greenvilleparanormal.com, Laura Casey's page. It's clearly marked as Matt's video. It absolutely just will, you can watch it over and over again. And the great thing about it is I know Matt, so I know it to be real. It's
Right.
You know
not
Joe,
one of
the
these- not one of these-
photographer.
Yeah, not one of these YouTube videos where you're like, it's really interesting, but I don't know the guy who shot it.
Right.
We know the guys who shot it. It's real.
Steph?
Yes. More questions?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out on a limb on my own and ask, where is a place that you guys have not been, whether it's allowed or not? Where would you love to go if you could, if you had the permission?
And I have an extended question on to that one
Okay.
too.
I guess I'll bring that up just because, if we talk about Rocky Point.
That's what I was gonna say.
No, I've been there plenty of times, both legally and sometimes just viewing the sites.
Well,
But
you
yeah,
have sorry to interrupt, but you have a comic book of Rocky Point.
absolutely, yeah.
And what's that called for people?
Tales of Rocky Point Park, for those who haven't seen it. It's basically all about the urban legends and kind of bizarre history of the park. But I would love to be able to get in there with full permission and have free range to investigate, film, you name it. I mean, I think just from my times being on that land, just like, say, like a Foster, you get sort of a sense that, wait a minute, there was once millions of people walking these grounds, and there's sort of a residual energy that you can just feel there.
So my question is, who do we contact to get access?
It's a good question, good question. Right now it's owned by the federal government.
Okay.
The state of Rhode Island is hopefully going to make a bid to purchase the rest of that land. If that happens, hopefully we'll be able to get in there. And everyone's invited.
Yay! I'm gonna go on the flume.
Yeah.
Well, Jason said we could come.
What about you?
If there was one spot I can get in of supernatural, Groom Lake. If I could which
Oh, you could get in. I don't think you could
you'd never get out. And you know what? At this point, I'd take it. You tell me I'm going to get a bullet in my head after 8 hours, but I
Just
get
as
8
long as
hours
you
in the
get some
building.
answers.
I have 8 hours and then I get a bullet. I'm going.
We've moved from hauntings to ufology, but I mean, Area 51, Groom Lake.
I would love that.
Sure.
Well, the question wasn't specific, so.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
Just if you
Right.
could get into anywhere to investigate with permission.
Well, it's above normal, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, you
Actually,
guys
the place
probably
you
been
want to go
everywhere.
to is Papoose Lake, not
Oh.
Groom Lake. Papoose Lake is behind Groom Lake.
Okay.
If you're looking for where Bob Lazar was working.
Yeah, before you make a ghillie suit to sneak in.
See, I would have
Take
taken
a
a bullet for
location.
nothing.
Just
All
saying,
you're going to find at Groom is the Aurora.
Yeah.
I'm just saying my nephews have 2 ghillie suits. You might
Just
fit into
saying.
them. Just saying.
So you guys have probably been everywhere and anywhere, but where would you guys go?
I'm with him to Papoose Lake.
Okay.
Oh, I think I'd like to have unlimited access at the Tower of London.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've been to the Tower of London, but as a tourist twice, and of course they got to keep a close eye on you. But the stories that I've heard come out of there from the beef eaters, the semi-retired military guard that ceremonially guard the place. But there's everything from animal apparitions when there was a zoo there to human apparitions and non-human entities. And I mean, when you have soldiers guarding the crown jewels, firing upon people coming at them, and then passing out, and these are the cream of the crop of the British military, they had to have seen something. We have Anne Boleyn there, Lady Jane Grey. I mean, it's just an amazing place. And again, we're talking places with vibes. I've been in there. I've been through the White Tower. It just drips with history, and there's things going on around you that you may not, see. It's just a fascinating place.
Add that to inside the pyramids for
Yeah.
a couple hours or
Yeah.
something like that. Both in
Yeah,
Egypt,
but you
South
can't-
America,
you can't
and the
get-
ones in China.
You can't get real
Right.
English fish and chips though in Egypt. You can.
How about you?
I'd like. Oh, sorry. What?
I said, how about you?
Oh, well, this is very broad, but I'd like to take a little trip to Scotland
Oh God, yeah.
and visit my dad is literally right off the boat. Was right off the boat from Scotland.
Edinburgh
So.
is such a great city.
Yeah.
It's so gothic. It's
Well, we've talked about
yeah,
this.
it's an amazing place.
I would love to go check some things out.
Go up to
over
the
there.
Highlands.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Put on a kilt.
There's so many. There's so
Just
many.
beware the
different
Moors.
places.
Yeah.
The Moors.
Yeah.
We'll go if we can stop off at the Hellfire Club in Ireland.
And forgive me because the name of the
You gotta
cemetery
go hit Loch
escapes
Ness
me.
while you're there.
Yes. My sister actually drove a boat on the Loch Ness because she got to go when she graduated high school. So.
It's not the only loch with a monster in it either.
True.
Yeah, Scotland's got a few of them, and Wales has one as well. And then down in Cornwall, they still see sea monsters off the coast there.
See, it can be SCI, Spirit Connections International.
Nice. I like it.
Just saying.
Tip and Stuff Broadcasting Live. No.
Take that, Wareham.
Yeah. So, I didn't know if you had any more. It's okay if you don't. I
Let's
just
see,
didn't.
we've already talked about that. Has anyone here ever seen a UFO? Besides Matt Moniz.
No, I don't think any of us believe in UFO stuff.
No, I didn't say that. No.
I have an experience when I was younger. A couple of bizarre things, but the most memorable is I remember looking up to the sky, seeing 3 white lights travel from left to right. The third light went into the second one, then the second one went into the first one, and then it was gone. So that was sort of fascinating.
What, airliners don't actually do that?
Now, without turning into a giant fireball.
Very well put. What about you, Matt?
Couple of vacations.
Yeah. Yeah, Matt has a mild interest in the subject.
Christian wants to get abducted, by the way.
Yeah, I was thinking actually quite literally of trying to take this year to get abducted.
Well, I mean, I'm sure if you
Every
just
time
put
I
your
say
mind
that,
to
that's
it-
the exact reaction I
Well,
get,
then-
but I'm actually serious.
Then you're wrong. An abductee doesn't go willingly.
What about, what would you call someone
You
who
would be an
induced it?
inductee.
Inductee,
Nice.
there you go. Contactees, abductees, inductees. I like that. I just have no, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the method of doing that.
Yeah, how do you make yourself desirable to a Greg? Oh boy, I'm so lost in this woods right now. I hope nobody finds me.
You start dressing up in a unisex
outfit.
You wear the T-shirt that says "Let's get probed." But Matt, your story. We didn't mean to
Yes.
interrupt your story.
I've had a couple of different encounters, several UFO sightings with a number of different witnesses. One of them here in Wareham with 5 other people, roughly 5 other people. 1978, right in Cremisa. Fairhaven in 1989. Fairhaven again in 1991. Wareham, 1988.
Wow.
And there's one I'm on the fence about whether it actually was a UFO. It just acted very strangely, and that was, again, here in Wareham, 2004.
Now, Matt, do you have a blog or anything where
No.
people? Okay.
I have I'm too busy with the shows I do. I don't have time for anything.
Well, no, I was just wondering if people had any questions about UFOs, because there's a lot of times, even I get asked about UFO sightings, and obviously that's not my.
Just send them to me at Spooky South Coast. I usually try and answer whatever questions I get when our server thing works right. Sometimes we have issues with it, but you know, as of relatively lately, I've been able to get the email. So if the spam filter doesn't kick them to something
We've
else.
had quite a flap lately, the Bridgewater Triangle area.
Well,
haven't we, Matt?
you've been with me on a couple of investigations.
Yeah, we had an interesting conversation with an independent journalist who's not a UFO guy, but he saw.
War correspondent.
Yeah, I mean, he saw
guy and
something
everything.
in the night skies, just hanging out with a buddy, and he said, if it ends up being extraterrestrial, I don't want to know what I saw.
Yeah.
His friends still won't talk about it, but we found him to be a very, very good witness. And he did videotape it. Not a great video, but still, it's bizarre what he did catch. So we've had stories about what orange balls flying around in the Bridgewater area. And
There's been several sightings of a black triangle flying around lately in this area. Tons and tons of black helicopters being reported all up and down the Bridgewater Triangle area lately, but we've also had a lot of military training for disaster preparedness.
of course, there was that whole Mather Cotton thing. A lot of people don't realize probably one of the earliest UFO sightings in American history was in Massachusetts, correct, Matt?
Correct.
Yeah.
1680s. The two gentlemen were up in the Mud River and saw a large, what they described as a giant flying pig.
Yeah,
the
like
pigs could fly, so to speak, but a swine is what they referred to it as in their writings, and this was documented by the then Governor Winthrop, I believe, was at that time.
Right.
Wow.
And they had missing time, and they found themselves up the wrong end of the river from the direction they were going in. So were they at
The Mud River's up in Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't know why the show is only an hour long sometimes, because we need to hop on the Spooky South Coast train and do the 2 hours, because we can just keep on going
Well, the
on
point
and
I
on.
was going to close with, I mean, we have all these sightings in the Massachusetts area. I think maybe some of your viewers should start sending in emails about their experiences.
Good point.
And maybe put together a show with Matt on
Do it.
ufology.
The thing
Do
is,
it.
the
We have a bunch of little
the
children
peanut
sitting here
gallery
as
like
well.
that.
the idea I had for you guys was to do the Rhode Island UFO. So you have one of the best cases of UFO infestation, we'll call it, from the 1967 events in the Woonsocket area.
Well,
I mean,
that's-
I was
that,
a little boy when that happened, but I remember that flat.
That's what I was
and
going
these
to
people
ask.
are still
Fascinating
there
story.
to this day and
It's a
haven't
fascinating story.
really been, talked to other than by me and a couple of other serious people.
I totally agree with you.
And I think that should be visited as a special.
And in the late 1950s, my little hometown of Greenville, Rhode Island, Slacks Pond, there were several sightings of a large silver craft being met up with small orange spheres and then leaving the area at great speed. My local paper even covered it.
Unreal.
Wow.
That brings me to the next question. What is next for you guys after you do this Haunted RI? Are you going to try to continue with Haunted RI, or?
Good question. I mean, everything's sort of up in the air. We're just glad to be finally done with the second episode. But I think no matter what we end up doing, it'll always be involved with the unknown, the supernatural, horror. I think we'd like to dabble in filmmaking in those aspects. But we love documentaries as well. So.
I'm telling you, you have to check out The Killing of Jacob Marr. It's a slasher flick
Okay.
by one of my good friends, Brad Rigo. So
Cool. Yeah, definitely.
if you guys like slasher flicks,
Once you stick we all know in this room, once you start the ball rolling for yourself in the
you just go,
supernatural,
go. Yeah.
it's not that you can't get out, it's that why would you want to? I mean, it's
There's so many
once
different
you
paths,
understand
that's why.
one small degree of it, you want to keep, at least for me, I know that it makes me starving to keep going.
It's like picking the paint on something. Once you
Yeah.
start, it starts.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this, Tim, because Mr. Tim Weisberg's still here. What's next for graveyard shifts? Are we doing another legend trips? Another graveyard shift?
Let me just slide into the seat over here. We're actually we're in exclusive pre-sale mode right now for our next event. We'll give it away now since there's only about 24 hours left. August 25th, we're doing Dead of Summer with the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast.
Wow.
Ooh.
There you go. And we're also working on a few other things that'll happen maybe even before then, and some things after then. We're hoping to come back here to Wareham for another event. come back here. I live here. But we're hoping to have another event here in Wareham, and some other things too that are top secret that I can't talk about just yet.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
I can't wait. I know. And now everybody's involved with everything, and it's a good group, a good crowd, you know?
Yeah.
It's,
And congratulations on your first year.
thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely.
Thank you. It just keeps on
Yeah.
growing and
Honest to
growing,
God.
and I'm excited. And I want to thank each and every one of you guys for being part of it. And
Yes, thank you
thanks,
for
Tim,
having
for
us.
putting the bug in my
Absolutely.
ear and staying on my behind to actually get it going, because it took about 4 months for him to finally push me to say yes.
Yeah.
But again, I want to thank each and every one of you guys.
Oh,
it was
thank
an
you.
awesome
Thank you for
show. I
having us.
can't wait to have you guys on next year,
Yeah.
because you're not coming on until next year. No,
Gotta wait
I'm
a
only
year to
kidding. But we have to go eat cake, and I just dropped my mic again. So I do want to say thank you guys for tuning in. And as far as events, as we're along the lines talking about them, I have an event Mother's Day, May 13th, at the Holiday Inn in Nashua. I'm going to be doing a gallery reading with Nicole Stevens. And then June 10th, I'm going to be at the Taunton Holiday Inn doing another gallery reading with Nicole Stevens. So tickets are on sale for those two events. If you guys are interested, definitely go to my website, tiffanyrice.com, or you can go to nicolestevens.com. And until next time, we're going to go eat cake. So thank you guys very much, and we will see you next week. Have a good night.